somebody gifted me a book years ago called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, and I started reading that and studying it, and that helped contribute to my growth in the entertainment industry, going from performing for tips to survive to doing these big multi-million-dollar production shows. In the magic world, it's all about getting people to go, whoa, wow, and a standing ovation. That's the success criteria. And in the industry that I consider myself to be part of now, which is personal transformation, the success criteria is people's transformation, of course. When I pray, I'm talking to God or the universe. Depends on your own religious and spiritual persuasion. But when I use my intuitive factor, the universe is talking to me. That's a much more powerful proposition. And one person living that way is always the majority.
This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here's your host, Ryan Alford.
What's the biggest thing holding you back isn't your strategy, but how you see things. Today's guest approaches that problem from a completely different angle, combining illusion, psychology, and what he calls real transformation. Anders Hansen is an illusionist and CEO of Real Magic LLC that is helping people break through limiting beliefs in a very tangible way. Anders, welcome to Vibe Science.
Thank you so, Mr. Ryan. I really appreciate the invitation. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, the vibes feel good today. We
100%.
Anders and I have tried to do this a couple times. The vibes were not right, but now we have it all here. So I appreciate the flexibility. You're in, where are we today, Anders? I think I heard I mentioned.
So we live in Miami. We have our home there. But after having built a foundation for freedom in my business for the last 8 years, we've done really well, created a global team, clients everywhere, built the whole idea around freedom, but forgot to enjoy it. So my partner and I was agreeing on the idea that was nuts. And so we took a year out to just go travel. And right now we're in El Salvador, and it's beautiful.
Hey, lovely. Hey, I like it. All work and no play doesn't make a good boy do anything good.
Exactly, 100%.
I love it. Work-life balance. So from illusion to transformation, I know you started as an illusionist, and how did that evolve into this transforming other people's lives?
It's a great question, Ryan. You know, after having done that for 20 years, we've done TV shows, cruise ship shows, I realized that the biggest trick is not on stage, it's in our own minds. I started studying personal development, trying to understand how I affect my reality by the way I'm thinking, because somebody gifted me a book years ago called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, and I started reading that and studying it, and that helped contribute to my growth in the entertainment industry, going from performing for tips to survive to doing these big multi-million-dollar production shows. And I was standing in the middle of that thinking, how the heck did this happen? I mean, I knew it wasn't an accident. I knew it wasn't God saying, now it's Anders' turn. You know, I knew I had something to do with it. And that new way of thinking guided me down to that path of just trying to understand more about reality and how we affect it. So I studied quantum physics, spirituality, personal development, and I became more and more dissatisfied with just magic, getting people to ask themselves the question, how did he do the trick? You know, will take you to a false sense of ego in the entertainment industry, and that's about it. And I kept asking myself, what did the audience take away from this? And that's when it hit me, nothing but a postcard and a souvenir cup. But if I started incorporating the tools that I had learned to transform my own life in a pretty significant way, I could hopefully leave the audience with some more tangible tools and strategies to improve their life. And so that's what we do today. You know, we do it through our Real Magic Live events, our virtual work. We bridge entertainment and transformation in a way that's very unique. And as far as I know, never been seen before.
I like this a lot because a lot of times transformation's hard, but like trying to get someone from point A to point D when they have, like you mentioned, limiting beliefs, a lot of hardwiring, from patterns and behaviors that they've been stuck in or parents or things that they've been hearing, and these I don't know, inputs that they've had for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. It's a difficult process. So if you can bring in illusion and entertainment and interest to kind of, I don't know if it's fun, but at least it has a value that keeps you glued to wanting to change in a different way, because I hear a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Part of the reason I wanted you on the show is because this is different. And, if I hear one more time, start with your why. Well, okay, great. I mean, that's wonderful and all, but like, I need some more persuasion in an interesting way. And I think what's fascinating about what you're doing is it is the combination of these things. How hard of a line of a balance is it to skirt with the illusion and the entertainment with the transformation?
It is such a brilliant question, Ryan, and no one has actually ever asked me that. So I'm glad you do, because it's not an easy one. In the magic world, it's all about getting people to go, whoa, wow, and a standing ovation. That's the success criteria. And in the industry that I consider myself to be part of now, which is personal transformation, the success criteria is people's transformation, of course. And so how do we bridge the two? I do it not by starting with the trick and what would get the most wows. I start with the premise. What is one of the main ideas I want to convey? And then I look for a tool that can illustrate it. So as an example, I realized on my journey that, like I said before, the biggest trick we have are the ones we play on ourselves in our own mind. And we do that through our assumptions. So let's break down when the magic happens. The magic happens in our mind when there's a disconnect between our assumptions and what we see. That's when the magic happens, not in the magician's hands, but in our own mind. And to illustrate that and to help us see how we interpret reality, I'm going to use an illusion to actually make my point. So for the ones, those listening, jump
you need to
be
YouTube. Watching,
YouTube.
folks. Yes.
Exactly. Jump to YouTube and follow along there. It's the best way to really engage with this material. And so on this side, Ryan, you see a one-sided domino brick. On this side, there's one dot. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah. This side, we have 4 dots. This side now, there's 3, and now there are 6 on this side. Like I said, it's a multi-dimensional domino brick. Let's try this one more time. On this side, you saw 1 dot. Then you saw 4, and then you saw 3, and then you saw 6. Your mind finished a pattern on your behalf. I introduced a framework of a pattern, but your mind adhered to the pattern because you've seen domino bricks many, many times. So you actually constructed a story in your own mind that wasn't real, based on the framework that already exists. So that's how we interpret reality. That's how we deceive ourselves. When in reality, on this side, you saw either 3 dots or you saw 1 dot. Your mind never saw this pattern before, so you didn't see that. So the point is, we don't see with our eyes, we see through them. We see with the assumptions that are stored in our subjective mind. So if I believe in limitation, sure, I'll get more of them. That's what I'll connect the dots for in my physical world. If I believe I'm a happy, healthy multimillionaire, those are the dots I'm starting to connect with in the physical world. So that's the point here, and that's what I discovered years ago. We don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. Now, as an illusionist, I have that added, let's say, benefit of keeping people engaged to the actual content. And I do that by continuously challenging the assumptions. So and the same on this side, you saw, of course, 6 dot or you saw 4 dots. But continuing with the idea of challenging the assumptions, you never saw this pattern. If I've done it right, though, now on this side, you would see actual 3, and on this side, you would see actual 8.
There's something coming. I knew it. Yes.
So that's how we do it. There's an actual lesson. That's the premise. It's to get the idea across that we are not seeing with our eyes, we see with our assumptions. So if I do want to change my reality, I need to start with my assumptions. But now you actually remember the point because we tied an illusion to it. So the illusion becomes the anchor for the point. That's how I built all of my live events and everything we do. Like you said, it keeps people engaged. We've heard the same old stuff in 50 million different wrappings. But with a teaching tool, which I believe magic can be, it becomes a different thing altogether. So currently we're number one in the box that we invented, because there's no one, as far as I know, doing what we're doing on the scale we're doing it in.
I love that. I was told, part of the best illusionists, make you think you figured it out and then you didn't. the trick at the end. I love it. Anders, you said something, and I always say, like, we're the biggest liars to ourselves. Like, we sometimes think we have liars around us. We lie to ourselves every day. And I think it starts with, you have these limiting beliefs, you have these things that you've always thought to be true. But it also sort of, like, we keep ourselves in these boxes, I think, of comfort. Talk to me about what you see working with people, and if that is in fact true.
Absolutely. No, we do stick in our own little box, and we limit ourselves unnecessarily. But like my good friend Bob Proctor always said, you are your own biggest limitation, but you're also your own biggest opportunity, based on how you see yourself. The problem with us, Ryan, is we don't understand ourselves. We think we are the physical instrument that we call our body. So when I look at myself in the mirror, I think that's me. And what Bob got me to see was a multi-dimensional being. And once I start working with the different layers of what makes me, me, then things start to change. And he told me that, we're a spiritual being, we live in a physical body, and we're gifted with a mind that can think. So we live on all three planes. And if I truly want to change my life, I first have to understand how I'm wired. When I have that understanding, I can learn how to motivate and inspire myself for the rest of my life. I don't need an external source. I don't want to be the one people say, you're so inspiring. That's very short-lived. We should be educational, I believe, to a point where people can learn to rewire, motivate, and inspire themselves for the rest of their lives. So I do believe it starts with understanding. Like I said, when I met Bob, he really changed my perception, and he introduced me to this little concept here. He called it the stick person. I call it the genie, because the understanding of this brings the genie to the surface in ourselves. We all have genius within us. There is nobody here that's more genius than others. We all have it. There's absolute perfection in us, but we just don't know how to draw it to the surface. So people are running around living conflicted lives, and that's what I did. I was broke, sick, and I'm very unhappy. When I started my journey, I'd never earned more than $40,000 a year working my tail off in the entertainment industry. And I had blood tests that said I was sick, and an eviction notice on my door, and a $50,000 stupid debt. So I earned $40,000 a year, and I owed $50,000. Not a great situation. But that was my starting point. And Bob introduced this to me, and he goes, Anders, if you do exactly what I'm telling you, you can have everything you want. And he drew this on a napkin. He said, this big circle is your mind. The small circle is your body. Mind is bigger than the body. Mind expresses itself with and through the body. And the mind is divided into two parts. So we have the conscious intellectual mind, which is the part that school focuses on. ChatGPT, a lot of information here. We can crunch information all day long. But then we have the subjective mind, which is defining 95 to 98% of our behavior and our results through the body. And so it's really about changing our belief system here. Start telling ourselves a different story. The body will respond eventually, and results will start changing.
Talking with Anders Hansen. He is an illusionist and CEO of Real Magic. Where do these limiting beliefs form? And why is it so hard to break them?
Great question. So I introduced this concept before. When we arrived on the planet, we looked like this. We were only a subjective mind and a body. So everything that went on around us went straight into the subjective mind. That's where it originated. That's what builds our identity and our self-image, which is one of the biggest mental programs that we have, is really running on autopilot in the background. Self-image defines our income, weight, health, everything in between. And so it came from early life, and we think that it's not just our parents. You have your grandparents' DNA in you as well, and we have their limiting beliefs and everything that they lived with. Like, I come from Europe. I'm from Denmark. I was born and raised there, moved to the US when I was 25 years old. But I realized very early on that I had a lot of post-war paradigms in my subjective mind, from the Second World War, because my dad experienced that when he was a young man. He was chased down the street by the Nazis with a machine gun. He buried his best friend, who was part of the freedom movement, and so he saw very close up what freedom was and wasn't. And so he instilled that in me very early. It's one of the most important things to strive for, which is why I love America so much, because it's built around the concept of freedom. And I've seen, my dad saw firsthand what that wasn't. So my need for freedom was really big through the storyline of my dad and his family tree. But on and on it goes. We don't have to go back in time to figure out our results and how to change them, Ryan. We just need to understand that looking in the rearview mirror gives us an awareness of how we're programmed. My biggest objective will always be working from the windshield with a person and getting them to see where they want to go. So we identify what needs to change and what needs to be replaced. We're not going to get rid of these beliefs. We want to replace them with a new operating model. And that's where profound and lasting transformation occurs.
How, and you talk about quantum leap a lot with your stuff and making that quantum leap in results. Yeah. How do you get people from whatever limiting belief it might be, or that I can only be this? And I see it a lot. I have a European friend that I see, and I'm like, dude, you know how talented you are? Like, what are you doing? Like the American way for good, bad, and indifferent is, go head forward, in a lot of ways. But how do we get people doing these things?
Now that we're talking about gratitude, I'd love to illustrate it with another little illusion.
Oh, here. Yes.
So let's do this. So we hear that. Okay, you should be grateful, yada, yada, great. Okay, I'm grateful. I spend 10 minutes, I'm very grateful, and then I rush into my day. Okay, wonderful. What it is, it's actually a state that connects us with the infinite supply within us. Wallace Wattles wrote a great book, The Science of Getting Rich, and he wasn't talking about money per se. He was talking about a rich and abundant life. And he said the entire process of mental attunement and adjustment can be summed up in one word, and that's gratitude. So we sit down every day and we write 10 things out we're grateful for. Family, connections, pets, things we love, healthy body, mind that can think freely, free mind. My gosh, wow, what a beautiful thing, etc. And that solves a lot of problems, because problems is inevitable. Like, we experience them. It's these knots. I took this handkerchief and I tied this knot. You see it is right there in the middle. It's very tangible. We have knots in our stomachs often. A problem occurs, I react to it emotionally. Something happens, I react to it. So how do we get rid of these knots? How do we move forward? Like I said, we do it with the daily gratitude practice, mental priming, emotional priming, and that will enable us to create more real magic by loosening up this knot. Eventually, it will sort of just fall away. It doesn't mean the problem disappears, but our perception of the problem disappears, and now it puts us in a more empowered state. That's what most people get wrong. I can't just be grateful because the problem is still here. Yes, it is, but it's also your perception of the problem that creates the problem. Without your perception, it's just a situation. It's a perception problem. It's not a situation problem. And so a little further down the road, another thing happens, another, not occurs, happens, maybe in our life, in our partner's life, whatever, but it multiplies if we don't deal with it. And we deal with it through a profound feeling of gratitude. One of my clients got diagnosed with life-threatening cancer, and she said, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. In that moment, she said it, because she had studied this. And the doctor said, no, I don't think you know what I'm saying. You might not live. And she said, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it's so terrible, it must be really good. Anders taught me that's two sides of the same thing. You can't have one without the other. If it's equal and opposite. So if it's really terrible, it must be really good. Little terrible, little good. All right. So she found gratitude and grace in her situation, and she believed it was the best thing that ever happened to her. As crazy as it sounded at the time. But she stayed with that conviction, and the knot disappeared. Literally, the physical knots in her life disappeared. She, of course, got treatment. She became very healthy, but she also built a business now around helping other people navigate the same challenges she did. And that was freedom for her and the other people. And that's real magic, Ryan.
Can we do a rapid fire, Anders?
Let's go.
One statement, and you give me your first thought. What's the biggest illusion people believe?
That they aren't enough. Hands down, the biggest one. They're God's highest form of creation. They should believe that instead.
One belief, it's kind of the same thing. One belief that holds people back, same thing,
Yeah.
kind of.
I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
I'm not enough tends to be the overriding one.
One habit that creates breakthroughs.
Gratitude, hands down.
Logic or intuition?
Always intuition, 100%. Einstein said intuition is the sacred gift. Logic is the faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has completely forgotten the gift. Intuition, when I pray, I'm talking to God or the universe. Depends on your own religious and spiritual persuasion. But when I use my intuitive factor, the universe is talking to me. That's a much more powerful proposition. And one person living that way is always the majority.
Yeah. If I could teach young people one thing, stop trying to be so logical and start being more intuitive.
Yes.
And you can do it, but you almost have to get out of your own way, because we have, why I believe this? We have so many answers now, Anders, like convenience. Everything's convenient. We have ChatGPT. We have all these things that provide the answers, that provide the logic, that provide the knowledge. But the difference is the intuition, the creativity, the thinking about thinking. One of my favorite people, and you talked a lot about this. You didn't say it directly that way, but that's a lot of what we've been talking about. Because when you write down gratitude, do these things, he always says, we need to do more thinking about thinking. And it sounds stupid, but it's actually true, because we need more intuition and less A, B, C, A plus B equals C. Yeah, it does, unless it doesn't. Anders, where can someone learn more about what you're doing, see one of your transformation illusion shows combined, and learn everything else about you? How can they find you?
Thank you for that, Ryan. So I'm a big believer in just providing good value. And so we put together a bundle that actually does provide great value, completely free. People will get, first and foremost, the assessment, the illusion breaker assessment, to understand what is my predominant mental illusion, my mental limiting belief I need to work with, and how do I get about changing it. That's the first step. Second step is, how do I set the target, the goal? How do I learn to prime myself to the frequency every day that matches? And how do I then understand how the mental is tied to the physical? We bundled that all up in a free kit that people can download. All they have to do is find me on Instagram or Facebook at Real Anders Hansen, and it's RealAndersHansen, and then just comment the word right about now. We took the name of your podcast. If the people put that in one word, right about now, and put it in the comments on one of our posts, then we'll send that kit to them and they can get started right away.
I love it, man. We'll have that link directly so people can click it, and links to all the social media. Anders, really appreciate you for coming on and sharing your perspective, and a lot of entertainment at the same time, doing a couple tricks. I'm sitting here going, how did you do that? Changing my perception in the middle of the show.
Love it. Thank you for having me on, Ryan. And if there's one thing I'd love to leave your audience with, it's the idea that it's not who we are that holds us back, because there's infinite potential within us, like we discussed. What's holding most people back are those mental illusions about who we think we're not.
Very true. We really appreciate Anders Hansen for coming on. Hey, you can always learn more. We can go from point A to point D. We are our biggest opportunity and the biggest thing getting in the way. We'll see you next time on Vibe Science. The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe.